but we've been talking a lot about the 49ers with this substation. I think we owe it to the listeners. And I get it. There's some of you in your car right now listening or on the Odyssey app where we're streaming or on YouTube. Like, I am so damn tired of the substation talk. Trust us.
We're hoping this ends it.
I want this to be over after today.
Yeah, I hope this ends
I hope Pablo Torre has ended it for everyone out there.
I mean, if the Niners didn't send a fat check to Pablo Torre after this one, what are they doing?
John Lynch has promised to be on his 100%. Next
pod. I just had a moment where I felt like I'm LJ in the future.
What? I need to tell you about the future.
Watching the boss try to navigate a YouTube page and Google search.
Everything for the next 15 years.
Hey, Grandpa, Daddy, do you not know how to use the internet?
Was he struggling that badly? What was he looking for?
He is not a millennial.
He was like typing into Twitter to get to Pablo's. Just go to YouTube.
You go to YouTube. Yeah.
You're wasting
Was he typing with 2 fingers?
Oh, that's pretty good, Sammy. I'll give you a 4 for that this morning. Well, speaking of that, what was he looking for when Pablo Torre referenced 95-7 the game, correct?
The very beginning, John Feliciano. So basically,
I got it right here. Yeah.
Dibs and John Feliciano started this whole thing. Play it right now.
And this is from Pablo Torre in his latest podcast. You can find it. It's called Pablo Torre Finds Out, and this time it's about the substation. He does a deep dive into the electrical substation, and it starts with the origin of this all, and it's right here.
And then somewhere along the way, Peter stumbles across a radio interview on a local Bay Area sports station that he likes to listen to. And it's an interview with ex-49ers player John Feliciano.
This is September 2025. It's 95.7 the game in San Francisco, and John Feliciano is the guest.
For 49er fans, where it seems like, and actually the data suggests it doesn't seem like, it's fact. Usually, and almost always, the 49ers are one of the most injured teams in the league.
And the hosts are talking about all of these injuries that the 49ers are getting.
And it's gotten to the point where people are like, it can't just be dumb luck. Like, there's got to be something to it.
We used to joke that it was the power plant behind the practice fields.
Apparently, that's where this whole thing started. It was Feliciano with our very own Mark Willard. I mean, come on, man. We got to give ourselves a pat on the back and a round of applause.
I love
95.7 started.
Real journalism here.
It's called 95.7 The Conspiracy now. There we go.
Well, they referenced how I didn't realize Rogan talked about it.
Oh, my
Obviously,
God.
Pat McAfee. We've seen Pat McAfee talking about it. Everyone on the internet has taken this power station story and ran with it.
Of course.
The guy who put out the original Reddit post, he had 500,000 views in like a week. How many views do you think he has right now?
Millions.
At the point where they published this episode, 22.5 million views.
Oh, my God. And they go even more into this deep dive. So it started there, Joe. Here's more about the buzzing sounds.
This is actually hilarious.
The buzzing sounds at the substation.
Sounds like my microwave.
He is worried that substations emit electromagnetic fields. And basically these fields are waves of electric and magnetic energy that move together. And Peter wonders, what if John Feliciano is right? What if those fields are harming the players and increasing their risk of getting injured?
When you go up, you walk up the back steps, you're looking right over the substation. And it's just, you can hear it buzzing and stuff. And
So how much buzzing are we really talking about?
Great question. We actually sent a reporter to the site, and look, she went to the loudest point that she could find, and here's what she said to us.
I feel like data centers have been absorbing a lot of the criticism for just ungodly noises emitted by electrical facilities. I feel like the substation is rightfully now in the conversation.
I mean, it's not birds tweeting. It's not a nice sound. That's for sure.
The buzz sounds.
But for me, that sound like my PS5 after 6 hours of playing.
Oh, like overheating?
Yeah.
That's
Like
exactly what it sounds like.
And I'm not,
Red Ring of Death on your 360.
But like that, like, you know what I mean? And look, some people are like, you shouldn't be playing, you know, you shouldn't. Remember when my mom used to say, you stare at the TV too long.
Yeah, your eyes aren't going to work anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. TV rots your brains. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Fox News did that to a certain generation of people. CNN did that to a certain generation of people.
It's the same thing when your parents would say, stop making that face or it's always going to be that way when you do a funny face. Yeah.
But that sound is not, I mean, it's not abnormal.
No, it doesn't sound like it's that annoying, right? Like,
but it is a sound, right?
It is. No, Joe, it's in my headphones, and I'm sure people driving around in their cars right now or listening, however they're listening, heard it, and it is noticeable. It is. So they go through that. All right. They reference John Feliciano, reference the sounds and all that, the station next to it. Okay. What about those measurements that were done, right? The Milligauss.
Milligauss.
All right.
Which I'd never heard of.
Well, here we go.
And he ultimately decides to go to the practice area and measure the electromagnetic waves. He drives up to the substation, parks nearby, and he starts measuring.
So, this is as close as I could get. But even right here, I'm reading almost 9 milligauss. Definitely a concern. The reading I had was between 8.5 and 9 milligauss. So the first thing I'm thinking when I see that is that's way higher than I would want to be exposed to.
And so a milligauss as a unit of measurement, that is a lot?
Normally, if you're just on your couch, say, you'd be exposed to about 1 or 2 milligauss. So 8 or 9, it is higher than normal. And at one point, he actually measures 50 milligauss.
Okay, so we're establishing that. Again, this goes back to the waves and what you're exposed to when you're like.
I was trying to explain this earlier.
Yeah, no, you were.
I hope I did. Maybe I didn't.
No, you're fine. You got a lot of information in 30 minutes. You can only do so much. Now,
just one man.
Here's more on why 50 milligauss is actually, well, not that high.
Because I thought it was a lot at first when I heard 50.
The guy makes it sound like it's a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
Apparently it's not.
Peter, with his Gauss meter, was recording, a 50 milligauss rating.
So I asked him, what about the 50 milligauss? Is that high? How worried should we be here?
So 50 milligauss is higher than what's normally encountered. However, it is still below, much, much lower than the limit. So the limit
what's the limit?
For the general public is 2,000 milligauss.
Whoa! Oh, okay.
Right.
And what happens at 2,000?
Well, nothing happens at 2,000 milligauss.
Right.
Because there's safety factors built within the limit.
So this is an enormous development for my numeracy around the milligauss.
You were worried that 50 milligauss was a shit ton. For narrative tension purposes, I didn't reveal that actually 50 milligauss is not particularly high.
Yeah, it's 2,000, which is a lot, not 50.
And the guy who was with the Australian voice was the Australian Radiation Protection and Nuclear Safety Agent, who is also a commissioner on the board of the International Commission of Nuclear and Radiation Safety. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, but he didn't post on Reddit, so I'm kidding.
No, I'm giving you his credentials. I'm just giving you his credentials.
All these people are very credentialed. Even Pablo Torre, if people are going to poo-poo Pablo Torre, guy's a Harvard-educated journalist, all right? He's got a degree from Harvard. Guy's smart, all right? Now, he might have some stories that, go over your head and go over my head sometimes, but this one does pertain locally, and they are kind of putting the kibosh, if you will, on this whole substation theory. And they keep going and going, and they get the scientist's opinion on whether or not he would play for the 49ers.
This is great.
Take a listen.
This is great.
Okay, so knowing what you know, would you feel comfortable playing football for the 49ers?
I would be ecstatic. Imagine how much money I could make. I could make way more money than sitting here talking about the adverse effects of
What about your Achilles?
Yeah. No, I wouldn't be worried.
I talked to Peter about it's kind of more broadly that I just didn't think the evidence was there that substations were.
I mean, you said you'd wipe your ass with the studies. It's very gentle of you to now say that you approach Peter delicately with evidence, but you wiped your ass with his evidence.
I mean.
Well, no, do you have the part where they because Peter is the guy that listened to our station.
I have
and he's the guy that kind of started this whole thing. She comes back with the rebuttal from the scientist and then asks him directly. I thought this was the most fascinating part of the whole thing.
And apparently, it was the wrong substation, Joe.
Oh,
it was the wrong substation that they were talking about. Take a listen.
Because it actually names where all the substations are, because there's substations everywhere, right? So there's the one right next to Levi Stadium. It clearly says it's called the NRS. Mostly it's called the Northern Receiving Station. But the one that we just read this whole thing about, like, oh, it was this big expansion, the Mission Substation, it's way over there.
So people were saying a substation upgraded in 2014, but it is a different substation.
It's a different substation.
This admittedly terribly made graphic does make clear that the thing that apparently has expanded, which is called Mission Substation, is off in the bottom left-hand corner and not at all the substation or either of the substations near Levi's Stadium.
It's not the same one.
How far away is that?
It's like a mile away, which is really far in the world of electromagnetic radiation because that field drops off extremely quickly with distance.
So the notion that it was a supercharged substation because of the upgrades that were done a decade plus ago, it wasn't even that substation. It was a different one.
How did we all miss on this?
Well, I think it was one person that missed.
might be the funniest thing out of this entire thing.
To me, I know there's all because I think there's a healthy skepticism from a certain segment of people that are never going to believe any of the studies and the science. But it's inarguable. The substation upgrades weren't even in 2014, weren't even to that substation adjacent to the practice field.
No.
It was a mile away. To me, that's like damning, is it not?
It is.
Well, I just think, again, this is because I've been this entire time, I've been one of those, it's not the substation, it's probably something else. And my whole frustration with all this is that we've listened to people with zero qualifications like Chase Sr. putting up this nonsense being like, oh, well, I saw this little Reddit post that says this, so it must be true. And we all take what he says as fact, but then actual people whose job it is to know this stuff come out and say, no, it's not the substation. But it's like, well, I don't know. This guy on Twitter said that he had his little Milligauss counter there. That was around 50. That seems like a lot. And I know we're down that theory too, but it's just this whole so what if this is like, maybe we should listen to people whose job it is to know these things instead of, dingbat 1, 2, 3 on the internet.
And if people have a problem with Wendy Zuckerman, who's obviously in a part of all this conversation, she does have a degree in biomedical science and law.
So one of the comments that I saw on YouTube that I think there's still going to be, there's going to always be naysayers, right? There's just, you say the sky is blue. Some people say it's gray or it's red or whatever. I mean, that's right. That's life, right? Will we agree?
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to have consensus on anything. But I read one comment, and I thought it was an interesting one, where it said basically, hey, I've been an electrical engineer for over 25 years. I've worked in a variety of different power plants. Maybe you should have spoken just to hear the evidence, yay or nay. He wasn't making a decision, but maybe you should have spoke to an electrical engineer or someone who has a doctorate in electrical engineering and maybe the effects of that. And so I was like, that's interesting. But that will exist regardless of listening or not to this hour-long episode.
Absolutely. And it's brought to you by Golden State, serving the Bear for 3 generations. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit goldenstatelumber.com. 1 hour down, 3 to go here. Spadoni and Shasky on the Morning Roast. And we're discussing the latest podcast from one Pablo Torre via Meadowlark Media. His podcast is called Pablo Finds Out. And this episode was doing a deep dive on the electrical substation next to the 49ers training facility that we've been talking about now.
I can't believe this.
It feels like 4 years, and we have now learned that the inception point of all of this was right here on 95.7 The Game.
Isn't that
with
even
Willard and Dibs talking to
Chef's
John
kiss.
Feliciano, former Niners offensive lineman, and he was kind of just poking fun about it being a nuclear facility next to him, and then that caused a Reddit post. They went through the Reddit post. They refuted a lot of that information with scientists. They interview Australian the guy, one of the top scientists when it comes to nuclear facilities. You just said so. It's
Radiation protection,
nuclear safety.
Clearly knows his stuff.
Yes, it's his job to know about safety.
Clearly knows his stuff.
So they refute all of this. Basically, it wasn't even the right substation that people were talking about for most of this time. It seems like, I mean.
Joe, I wonder, with the new knowledge that we have that Feliciano broke this on Willard and Dibs, I wonder will that crack the top 15 greatest moments for Dan Dibley on the next 15 years?
Well, it'll probably be top 20 for the 20th anniversary.
It should.
I told him yesterday at the big sales meeting, we had everyone here, and I was like, dude, that list was terrible. He's like, you do your own list. You do your own list.
Was he really mad?
Thanks.
Dude, I can think of 15 things that happened this week that were better than those 15.
Was he really mad?
Oh, he was upset. He can say he wasn't. He's upset.
Oh, no. You're listening
his list was awful.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco.
I'll die on that hill.
An Odyssey Sports Station, the home of the Golden State Warriors of Valkyries, always live on the free Odyssey app, coming live from Laughing Monk Studios. All right. Not the end. We're going to play all these cuts because God bless Chase, who's up for Rookie of the Year, Rookie Producer of the Year, doing a deep dive on all of this stuff.
Dude, you did a great job listening and going through the whole thing. I mean, you listened to because I got the whole hour, all right? I watched the whole hour this morning. I woke up super early. I was packing my bag.
Well, I was listening to all the Lake Up conversation because that was also a big story within the last 24 hours.
We can get to that.
And then I see a text, you got to check out this Pablo Torre thing. I was like, all right, well, now I got to switch my podcast and stuff. So I haven't completely gone through it, but we're all going through it as a show together right now.
So, Chase, you and I both watched the whole thing, listened to the whole thing, and I kind of went over certain segments. My biggest takeaway is that there's so much misinformation and cherry-picked data that has been exaggerated across the board, and just the big thing for me was I thought the substation was upgraded in 2014. I was like, wow, there's a direct correlation. 2014, a ton of injuries. This thing got upgraded. That's not true. So now I just throw that out the window. But all the other stuff, it's like flimsy at best. Right? Like flimsy at best.
My take on it is that, it's a complete sham.
Yes,
whatever this guy came up with.
Yes.
He clearly didn't do his research, clearly didn't know what he was talking about. And he started this entire conversation. But I don't know if you're the Niners, I think you're happy about this because this was never going to go away. Say that Pablo Torre did his research and found out that there actually was an impact on the injuries with the substation. But now you're kind of looking at Kyle Shanahan, at least I was, and it's like, okay, is it your practice routines that are causing 100%. These injuries? Is it the fact that you're drafting all these injury-prone players and signing these older guys who've already had injuries? I don't know. I thought they solved some questions, but some other questions came up from it, too.
Well, I think my number one takeaway, which was at the very end, was like, clearly, and I'm going to go back to what I said 2 months ago, clearly, whatever the Niners are doing when it comes to the human part of this, how many days in a row are you practicing? How hard are you practicing? What's the space in between them? What's the recovery? What's the strength and conditioning program? What is the culture of the team in terms of fighting through injuries?
Right.
Like now all the stuff we know about Achilles injuries, because Dr. Narab Pandya put out a big study on how the more they've seen more data suggest that when you're really pushed to the brink, that's when your Achilles snaps more often. And I'm really boiling that down because that does not sound scientific, what I'm saying. But like, I put more into culture, the players, the practice habits, the strength and conditioning, and they have gotten a complete pass during this substation conversation.
And they bring that up towards the end right here, why the 49ers practice might be to blame.
There could be other much cleaner explanations, like, I don't know, culture, coach.
Or both. For instance, how many practices in a row 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan was mandating during training camp in 2025?
Way to build your body to make it through a year is building that callus. All right. I really believe in 3 practices in a row as we go through camp. I can't always do it, all right, because of scheduling and stuff, but that's what our goal is. All right. The more we can practice 3 days in a row and fight through soreness and stuff is the more you build that callus.
But this is yet another human decision that Kyle Shanahan now says is becoming a bit more relaxed because the 49ers are no longer practicing 3 days in a row. Kyle Shanahan is changing his mind. He's now limiting it to 2.
That is a big deal. That is. What's up, Sam?
Well, no, because there's a couple other things here this kind of remind me of. One is, I went back, I looked at the NFL Player Association surveys they do at the end of every season.
Yeah.
And they rank, among other things, the training facilities and training staffs of every player. Last 3-4 years, the Niners training staff, training facilities routinely ranked at the very bottom of the league. as according to the players. And another thing is we know Kyle Shanahan, ever since he started here, he's not a big believer in, I guess they call it static stretching, which where you're standing still and stretching out your ligaments and stuff that way. Conversely, way back when Harbaugh was running the team, Harbaugh and his coaching staff, they loved the concept of static stretching before
I stretch
practices.
before everything I do. Golf.
Exactly.
Any activity, I am a sit there, stretch. I ease into my workout.
Yeah, and the Niners have been known to, they kind of phased a little bit of that out when Shanahan took over. That's why when people kind of point at Levi, it's like, well, ever since the Niners moved to Levi's, they've had more injuries. Well, Kyle Shanahan's been the head coach for all but 2 of their seasons at Levi.
And Harbaugh left after 2014.
Exactly. Correct. So obviously there's going to be the correlation's going to kind of, there's going to be a similarity there. That does, like, there's a correlation. That doesn't necessarily mean causation there.
Yeah, it could be coincidence.
Exactly. So basically what I'm saying is there's been lots of other things that the Niners have been doing that kind of play into that cut we just heard there, where it's just like, there are things they're doing inside the building that are contributing to this that they need to fix.
That's a great point. And I think, I'm going to be real. McCaffrey looks a little goofy in this one.
Of course he does.
Well, they bring up the Wi-Fi thing, and Pablo just kind of like laughs. He's like, I sleep on my phone. And look, like, they have different prerogatives, like you brought up McCaffrey's been injured a lot.
McCaffrey's been injured a lot. So if he believes that anything that could cause an injury, like if he could like dominate the controllables there and do away with that stuff, he might do it, which is his prerogative. We might find it all silly, but if it helps his mentals turning off the Wi-Fi, whatever, man. But it does sound counterintuitive. I would never do that.
Between you and me, you're playing football and you're worried about the Wi-Fi?
Well, that's the other thing, Joe.
Am I the only one that's no, really?
No, Joe, that's the absurdity of all this.
You're playing football and you're worried about the Wi-Fi?
And you're a running back, dude.
Am I tripping?
I'd be more concerned about, did
you see Roger Craig?
Well, I didn't want to get into that, but it's a seriousness. You see Roger Craig, you see Chris Johnson?
Yeah.
The brain trauma of being a running back right now, not right now, always, but with CTE going around and we're worried about, Wi-Fi? I mean, it does, when you put it that way,
that's all I was saying.
It's pretty ridiculous. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.